Good Woch, everyone. Thank you for being here. I apologize for, not being available all week. It's Hashem. Hashem should help. From now on, things with Hashem will be more facilitic. So here we are in Parshas Chukas, very special parsha. Rabbi Nosson says something very, very interesting about the contradiction between Duma and Tmima. And he says that on one hand, Aduma is the color red, which represents Xerxes. It's dinakasha, that's a harsh judgment. Tmima, that has yet to carry a yoke, is called dinarafia. It's a sweetened, lesser judgment. We have the very interesting fact about Paraduma in the fact that Paraduma is metar tmeim, it purifies those who are tome, who are defiled. Or metam tahir. On the other hand, it defiles those who are pure, because the person who spritzes the meichatos, that water of the paraduma, he himself becomes tameh. He comes pure, and he, sprinkles the water on the tmeimes, and tmeimes becomes who comes to the process, tameh, becomes pure. And the kohen that sprinkles the water on him comes to the process pure and becomes tameh. Obviously, it's not the same tumah. The kohen is just matama, tumas erev. Just he goes to the mikveh the next day. By night he's already tar. It's not tumas mesh, but nevertheless, it's a very peculiar, strange phenomena that from the same thing, somebody who is tameh becomes tahar. Somebody who is tahar becomes tameh. So there's first of all a very beautiful vort, a very choshev vort from the Chayz of Lublin. He says, "Para aduma tmima asher lo aleh al." He says, somebody who holds himself to be a tomim, clean of everything, it's a siman that it doesn't have an ol malchus shemayim. If you see for yourself that you're without any blemish, means you're not checking close enough. But nevertheless, Rabbi Nosson speaks about this particular nakuda, and he says that it's a delicate balancing act. When you take a look at yourself, who you are, how your life is going, and you see that you are in bad state, you don't measure up, you can do this, you can do that, you're not trying to daven hard enough, you're not learning nearly enough, and whatever it is that you come to a conclusion that you're just a sorry case. You're not where it's at. He says this is Par Aduma. That's Dina Kasha. And not only this, but it is being driven with a certain feeling that when you are judging yourself so harshly, it shows a certain seriousness about you. You know, you're not just taking things lightly. You're being serious with yourself. But that's Dina Kasha. When a person is such a state where he's in such a low state, Dafka then he has to look for Nakudas Tilis, for good points about himself. In those points, it's not so bad. I'm not that bad. But I'm filmed in the morning. I'm wearing tzitzis. The whole world cannot contain the light of tzitzis. It costs you a few shekels. All this comes to ameliorate the din. You're not as bad as you think you are. However, a person who thinks that he's all good, if he will start judging himself, here, I'm also good at this, I'm good at that, he's killing himself, he's falling into gaiva and so forth and so on. Remember years ago, I said about this particular Nakuda that, there is on Shavuos, we're bringing the Bikurim, the first fruits, of the land, the Shiva Minim. You put it in a basket, you come to a Samikdash, and you give it to the Kohen. And you're saying something which is called Vidui Maser, a confession of giving the Maser. Okay. So what are you saying in this confession? You're not saying that you are the one who killed Bill the Kid or Jimmy Hoffa and buried him under the Giants practice stadium, whatever it is, New Jersey. What you're actually saying is nobody knows who Jimmy Hoffa is. Okay, forget about it. Anyhow, what you're saying is, look, here I brought to you, Hashem, the fruit of my land, the first fruit, and I didn't give it to a mess. I didn't eat it while Chas Chalila I was an oinen. And you're saying all these things that you did well about this Meiser. And you're saying, now Hashem, look down from the heavens upon us and bless us and whatever it is. This confession, what are you doing? What you're actually doing is that you're just saying how good you are. So what kind of a confession is that? A confession is what you did bad, obviously, right? But we learn from it, from this particular Nakuda of Paraduma. When you are coming to confess, if the only thing that you are saying are the bad things that you did, that's not a true confession that you need to do in Avodas Hashem. It can very easily denigrate to depression. As we said, look, I'm no good. Or else it can become a game. All you're doing is just saying, I'm not good at this, I'm not good at that, I'm not good at this, I'm not good at that. And this is like, You know how bad I am. I just went out of my house yesterday, and there was a whole process of ants crossing my path, and I stepped on them, and I killed. I don't know how many I killed. I can't believe I did this. I can't believe I did this. This is unbelievable. I said, that's nothing. I went out of my house, and there were no ants there, but there were ants there the day before. If I would have gone out this day before, and I would have stepped on them, man, okay, check me out, man. I'm even bringing myself on something that I could have done had I come out the day before. It's a game. It's a shtus. Any kind of business that is running a set of books in order to find out, proper accounting, to find out where am I as far as the business is concerned, has to have the income as well as the expenses. You can't have just the expenses. For all the expenses, it's just a game. You say, this you do good and this you do bad, because this is a real account. It's between you and the Kodesh Baruch Hu. If all you do is just count the bad, and if all you do is just bad, it's a game. It's not, a count means that you're checking yourself out to find out what do you have to correct. You can't say that I'm not doing anything. You're not doing anything. This is the paraduma. You have to see both ends. So let's talk about the Baal Shem Tov, or story about Shem Tov. V'afta l'reacha kamocha. You should love your friend, your neighbor, like you love yourself. And Hashem tzilcha al yad yaminecha. Kadosh Baruch Hu is your shadow on your right side. Baal Shem Tov said, the same way that a person behaves with his friend, with love and midas status, that's the way Keviyachol Kadosh Baruch Hu will behave with him. The very same way that when a person makes a movement with his hand, this is making a shadow. That's the way HaKadosh Baruch Hu does with a person. Love your friend, ki kamocha, because the way that you behave, ani Hashem. That's the way that I, Hashem, am behaving with you. The way you're behaving with your friend, that's the way that Hashem is behaving with you. Hashem HaKadosh said that Ahavas Yisrael, that's the first gate to get into holiness. And he also said, when you love a Jew, you love a Kodesh Baruch Hu. Because a Jew is a chelek elokam imal. He's a piece of godliness. So when you love a Jew, in other words, when you love the inside of a Jew, the Jewishness of a Jew, you love a Kodesh Baruch Hu. It's automatic. He says, Baal Shem Tov says that Kadosh Baruch Hu is sending a neshama to this world. And this neshama lives for 70, 80, 90 years. And the goal of that neshama is to do a favor, to do something good for somebody else, for another Jew. In Gashmius and Ruchnius. You know, the Esh Kodesh from Piazetzna said that the greatest favor, the greatest thing that you can do is do something good for somebody else. There's a very famous story from Shlomo Carlebach that he said that years ago in the 60s, he saw a street sweeper, all broken down with a very sweet face. So he asked him, where from where are you? In Yiddish, asked him, where are you from? So this kid told him that he's from Piazetzna. So Reb Kallenbach got very, very excited. He says, I've never met a Jew from Piazetzna, because all the Jews from Piazetzna, they all perished in the Holocaust. And he says, did you know the Esh Kodesh from Piazetzna? He said, of course I know. He says, can you tell him anything? Can you tell me some word from him or anything? So this Jew said, after all the years in the concentration camps, you expect me to remember some kind of a Torah that I heard from the Esh Kodesh. He says, but I can tell you one thing. I remember the Rebbe taking all the children and tell us, Kinderlach, listen, the greatest thing that you can do is do a favor to somebody else, do something good for somebody else. And the Yid says, listen, afterwards I went, I was taken to the camps. I was very young, but I was big, and the Nazis thought I was older. So they kept me alive, and he said, and he worked, and he was broken down. And he said that he figured that he really, he wanted to commit suicide. Then remembered the words of a Piazetzin Rebbe, and he saw all these Jews that are coming there to the concentration camp, and they were so broken. So remembering the words of the Piazetzin Rebbe, he at night he would listen to them. Let them tell him how difficult things were for him and everything. And this is what he did every single night. As much as was possible. And this is how he survived the Holocaust. Just remember the words of the Piazetzna Rebbe, the Esh Kodesh. You should know that the greatest thing that you can do is do a favor to another Jew. Ad kan Siper Baal Shem Tov. Let's share the screen and see what does Rabbeinu have to tell us in Sichos Haran for this week. This week we are learning Sicha Ayin Ches. Rabbeinu says that at any place there is Yosher. Ultimately, at any place there's a certain kind of honesty. Afilu misha se kol ha'ovlas, even somebody who does all the bad things that you can think of. Still, at a certain point in time, it lights up a certain yosher. It says the only difference is yesh chiluk ben bnei adam, between people. Matai matchila yosher, when does the honesty, the integrity begins? Yesh bnei adam, there's some people shayosher matchil etzlo techef. The integrity and the honesty starts immediately. ויש שאין מתחיל אצלה יושר, רק אחר שעושה עוולה. First of all, he does something bad, and then he starts behaving properly. And another person, the beginning of integrity by him is after he's doing a few bad things. And so are other people, the by him it starts later and later and later. But still, after everything is said and done, even in him, there will be a certain kind of integrity, but it'll just begin late. He says, for instance, he says, there's a Maisa that I saw, Rabbeinu says, in a certain village, that, a soldier came and said, give him the horses that they use for the wagon of the mail wagon. So they gave him money, they bribed him. Then comes the second one, a second soldier, and the first one told him to take the horses from the Jews. So they bribed him too. Then came the third one, and he needed the horses. And he wanted to take the horses. So the owner of the village went before the first soldier, who was himself, some kind of feudal lord. And he asked him to intercede, help us out. Now, the first soldier, the first feudal lord, whatever it is, he said, don't take the horses from them. So you see, by this Gazlan, the third one, the first Gazlan that wanted to take the horses, who was bribed, integrity started after two bad things that he did. Then the integrity started and says, something, leave them. Even though he was a Gazlan, even though he was dishonest. And he did avlos, he did twice. He took the money himself, and then he incited the second one to take the horses. So he did two avlos. But the third time, they said, something? Yeah, okay. So he told the third one, don't take the horses. So the integrity started in the third time. So what we're finding here is that there's always certain honesty. The only difference is, when does the honesty start? And you should understand that. This is what's written in the Zohar Kodesh. It also, the Sita the Smaller, in the Sita of Gvura, there's Yamin and Small. There is Chesed and Din. But the Chesed, the Yamin, the right side of the small, is really much less than the small of the Yamin. In other words, you have a Yamin, which is Chesed, then you have a small, which is Gvura, and by themselves, they're also divided to Yamin and small. So in the Chesed, you have right and left, and in the Gvura, you have right and left. So the Chesed inside the Gvura is a lot less than the Gvura on the side of the Chesed. So it said, even the Sitra Achra, there's a Yamin, there's a right. The B'chinas Yosha, integrity. Only their right, their honesty, their integrity starts much later, even of the small of the Kedusha, and you should understand that. This is a very important Nakuda. They told Reb Nosson once about a person who that person was a Baal Avera, was a muscle or whatever. So they told Reb Nosson, but he's an honest man. He doesn't say a lie. He does not lie. Reb Nosson said, well, he doesn't say a lie, but he does a lie. He acts a lie. His meisim are a lie. It's very important for us to understand this. You see, we live in a society that by and large is kula small. It's basically the universe they live in is kula small. From Chil Shabbos, Trefis Nevelas. And then you can find that even by them, there are certain things that are good. You know, they support certain things in Torah, whether they like it, they don't like it, whether they do it for political reasons or whatever it is. So you see, there's a certain Yosha there. Look, it did something good for the Jews or from Jews and whatnot. And then you take a look at our own people. Shem Torah mitzvahs, Charedim Baal Shem. And you see all kinds of things which are they're not the way they should be. On one hand, you're looking at the right, at the chesed, in the side which is kula small. It's the entire thing is a small. It's the right of the small. It's the right of the entire left. By us, you see people that are not behaving the way that they should. But what it is, it's the small and the overall yamin. The general inclination of a person is if he sees somebody, something good by somebody, the tendency is to paint this person lily white. He's all white. He's all good. He's great. On the other hand, when you see something wrong in a person, the tendency is to paint him all black. He's all black. The main Indian is that you should understand that by a Yid, the same thing, I'm not just talking about Haredi Yid and from Yid, and even by Yidin Bechlal and going Bechlal. The bad Yidin. Take a look at what's going on with this, whatever you call it, government, whatever you call it. They're anti-religious, they're anti-this, they're anti-that. What are they pro? They say that the other side also have rights. Have you ever seen an Arab say that? Have you ever seen a German say that? Have you ever seen an Englishman say that? You know something, the other side is right. No such thing. Those people who are on the wrong side, who live their lives as if the Kadosh Baruch Hu does not see, they prove their Jewishness by their mistakes. Their mistakes are totally off the charts, to the point that they're being against Jews and pro the enemies of the Jews. And you're going like, I mean, what are they, drunk? What's the story with them? The story is that they are Jews. And this is the propensity of the Jews is always to look for what the justice is. So if you look in the whole thing, cockamamie and upside down, so you see it, the right is wrong and the wrong is right. But that tendency to judge somebody else favorably and say, something, he has a right as well. It's the left of the right. In other words, it's the left, it's the gvura in the chesed. Every single Jew has that. Notson says about this union of Pora Duma and finding a Nakuda Tova about yourself. He says, even when a person is a Rasha, first of all, there is a mitzvah for a person not to make himself a Rasha, not to hold himself to be a Rasha. But he says, even if that person really is a Rasha, the least he should do is not judge himself to be as a Rasha Gomer. He's a total Rasha. No, this I'm not. They're good things. I've known certain people that, man, they were tough businessmen, to put it mildly. Our brethren, tough cookies. And you would find by them that they were doing tzedakah, that they were doing all kinds of things which were totally incongruous with their attitude of I don't give a hoot about anybody except me and my family. Yet when it came to a certain thing, the yosha starts. The integrity starts. I remember a story I heard from the person. This is Bechlal. It's not specifically Nagia to this particular Nakuda. I mean, the person that told me the story, it's about him. It's not really. This guy was one of them, tough Hasidic guys. A businessman that when it came to business, I don't know how much he saw anybody was standing in his way. But we were volunteers in an organization which is called the Guardian of the Sick in Borough Park. Now, the Guardian of the Sick in Borough Park is the Chevra Kadisha. So what we would do, most of the work that we would do is, we had these hospitals, Goyish hospitals with Maimonides, we had whatever the hospitals were around. And when a Jew would pass away, they would give a call to the Guardian of the Sick and tell them, listen, there's a Jew that passed away, and we would go there and we would disconnect the person from the machinery, whatever it is, making sure that whatever needed to go with him, be buried with him, would go with him, and so forth and so on. And at times, we also did taharas, just the funeral homes over there. Funeral homes belong to Goyim. But even the Goyish funeral house, to get the Jewish business, they had a mikveh. So they would call, the volunteers. They would tell us this taharan, whatever it is, we'll go and we'll clean and prepare the deceased for burial. By the way, doing it on a volunteer basis is an unbelievable segula for your Shemai. Because when you see it with your own eyes, there are no ifs, ands, or buts about it. You can't kid yourself about it anymore. But the story I want to tell is about this particular businessman. And the very fact alone that he was a volunteer for such a thing already tells you that, that he had this Yosha in him. And one day, I think it was after Tahara that we did some, he told us a story. And the story itself that he told us was amazing, was unbelievable. But what I remember is the way that he told it. The story was as follows. He said that he got a call from the guardian of the sick that an old Russian Jew, we're talking about the 90s, an old Russian Jew passed away. And this Jew just his wife was alive. He had no children, no relatives. They needed a minyan, for the burial, for the Levaya. And he said, all right, something, I'll go do a mitzvah, do a chesed, do the niftar a favor. And he said as follows. They had the minyan, and over the grave, the almana, was the old Russian Jewish wife, they told them how come they didn't have any children. Listen to this. They lived in the wilderness. I don't know where it was, but this is when the Soviets put them. They could not go anywhere. For over 30 years, there was no mikveh that she could go to. That's why they had no children. And this tough businessman, I remember his expression, he said with such self-contempt about himself. And here I was doing him a favor, I was just like, I'm going to do him a chesed. Me, Mr. Big Shot. And he said, on the spot, I felt the size of an ant. Would compare to this Mesiris Nefesh of these two Russian Yidden. Because they didn't have a mikveh, they had no children, 30, 40 years. The Mesiris Nefesh, I'm not even talking about because this is beyond that businessman. I'll never forget the very same kind of cynical contempt that he usually had for everybody else in business, he had for himself. I'm doing them a favor? What a gewaltige schos it was for me to be there in the minyan for this Jew. What a hero. Nobody knows about him. Nobody knows about his wife. Nothing. But the same thing applies also for you. Don't give up on yourself. When you see that you're doing something wrong, and it's being followed by something else that is wrong, and another thing that is wrong, and another thing that is wrong, Yosha will start. Your own integrity will start. Don't give up on yourself. Even if you did this wrong and that wrong and this wrong and this wrong and this wrong and that wrong. Yeah, but maybe the next time I will not. Maybe my integrity will start. Always be on the lookout to start again. Bezat Hashem, Hashem Yisborach should help us that we will be able to continue learning again. And it's Hashem, I hope to see you all on Monday night.